Welcome to another episode of the APL Spotlight Series. Amazing guests the world over with incredible insights, experiences, and much more to share with us. I'll call it high vibe or love, and something people may not know just starting off at the beginning of any of these episodes. We've been out for 2.5 years, 204 episodes, although our guest today is the 205th episode coming out on Wednesday, May 20 something, end of the month. That's basically last night if you're watching this one. We've been out for 2.5 years. Guests often take steps with the universe. That's angels, loving figures, Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddha on the show. You can do the same. We'll get to that later in the show. We've got somebody who's super special coming back on, Laurie Nadel, PhD, psychotherapist, but she was with Newsweek as a journalist decades ago and has been to Latin America a ton. So we've got her back on the show for the APL Spotlight Series to share a ton of these trips, these experiences with indigenous elders, medicine people, and so on. I think she's going to share a little bit about the fork in the road that she had as a choice. Did you want to stay societal, career, doing serious Newsweek stuff and other stuff later on? She's a trauma specialist. She went through 9/11. If you watch the regular show, last night's Wednesday's episode, you can hear about the guardian angel that popped in. She got to see it full on just before 9/11 happened. There she was living within, a short distance from where 9/11 happened. And the angel said not to worry about anything. You'll hear that from her later. Fantastic guest, has been around the block, traveled a ton, and she and I have interacted a bunch, just love her to death. And I'm very excited for her to share all these details down in Latin America, Central America, and so on. Laurie, great to see you again. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me again as a guest on your show.
And thank you. Can you cover just a little bit? Look, you've got solid credentials and you're an author of books out there. Sixth Sense, Unlocking Your Ultimate Mind, and other published stuff. You've been published in the New York Times and elsewhere. Talk to us just a little bit about there was the career you, but there was also, we'll say, the jungle you, the holistic you, the healing you, and you still have other modalities you practice today, whether it's Reiki or other stuff that you offer to
Yeah.
patients and people.
Well, I was a reporter in my 20s and I worked for United Press International and Newsweek, and I had a number of assignments in the jungle. Um, My favorite one was I was the first American to cover, American reporter to cover U.S. oil companies that came in to start exploring whether there was, oil beneath the surface of the jungle. And so they flew me out strapped to the floor of a Cessna small plane in the middle of a thunderstorm because they had to make their payload. There was a case of beer that was sitting in the co-pilot seat, but I was on the floor facing three women who were strapped to the other wall of the Cessna, and they were prostitutes that were being shipped in for the work crew, for the local work crew. And even though I had this lovely camera with a telephoto lens and I was wearing khakis and I was clearly a journalist, they didn't know what a journalist was. And so they asked me if I was there, going there to the Americans, just like they were going there to the Peruvians. And I pointed to my camera and said, "No, I'm a periodista, I'm a journalist." And they rolled their eyes like, "Yeah, right, and I'm Queen Elizabeth." And they just started laughing at me. So with three prostitutes, a case of beer, and me, we landed in the middle of the campsite, and all these people, probably workers, burst out cheering when I got off the plane because they thought that, I was going to service the entire American engineer population, whereas they had three women who were going to be dispersed out on the line. And we started going out in helicopters into the middle of the jungle where they were setting off seismic explosions to see whether or not there was oil underneath the shelf. And it was dangerous a couple of times. Well, a couple of times it was always dangerous. And I had been afraid of flying and afraid of helicopters. But when we got trapped in the middle of one of the sites and it was getting dark, I suddenly became unafraid of helicopters when I heard the chopper overhead and I went, "Oh my God, it's going to rescue us. This is not looking like a very comfortable way to spend the night." People were not happy that, the gringos were still there. So that kind of started me on this love affair with the jungle. We used to fly around in DC-3, reconstituted DC-3 planes that again were basically cargo planes, and you'd sit on a canvas bench and they would strap you to the wall of the plane. But on one of the trips that I took, the co-pilot was apparently studying opera. That was his hobby. And so he sat down on these giant oil cans in the cargo area behind the pilot seat. And he said, "Oh, go sit next to the pilot." And the pilot gave me this cardboard sheet. And I guess they didn't have radar, and they didn't have any, like what we consider regular navigation equipment. And it said, "Go northwest at 60 degrees for 3 minutes, then go east for 20 minutes, then go 90 degrees straight north for 5 minutes, and then come down at a 45-degree angle for 4 minutes." And that was how they would navigate where they were going. And you could use that cardboard sheet with those time and map coordinates to get anywhere, even in the thickest rainstorm, because there was no radar. I mean, we were landing in these grass strips in the middle of these towns with villages with thatched huts. So and it really, that was before they started really destroying the jungle. So at that time, I just remember these beautiful afternoons. It was like flying over a green ocean. It was spectacular. But then when I went back 20 years later, and at that point, as you said, I'd come to a fork in the road, and I was starting to realize that the medical models that we have in our country to help people who are having trauma reactions, emotional crises, or even biological mental illnesses, that these models of medicating people or just talk therapy or putting a diagnosis code, next to somebody's name, were not usually helpful, at least not to the people that were coming to see me. And I had done a lot of reading and learned that indigenous people, and interestingly to me, a lot of the indigenous healers were in South America. And so as an adrenaline junkie, because I was also a windsurfer, and I was always up for an adventure if I could. If my ex-husband, who was my daughter's father, if he was available to come stay with her for a week, I would catch the next trip that was going to South America if I was going with friends. And very often my friends were becoming healers who knew indigenous shamans and who knew what we call curanderas and healers. And so this first trip in particular, I don't know if you've had him on your show, is John Perkins, who became famous for Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Now, he was doing shamanic workshops at places like the New York Open Center and the Boston Interfaith Center, and places where I was also teaching intuition and sixth sense. And I went up to him after one of his workshops, and I said, I was a reporter in Peru when you were in the Peace Corps in Ecuador. I mean, we were like next door to each other. And I never went, I never got as far as Ecuador. I got to the northern border, but I never crossed into that other country. Um, I said, it's very interesting that you were doing this, work with shamans, and I was doing straight reporting. But I'm wondering if you've gotten any media coverage for these expeditions where you're taking health practitioners into the jungle. And he said, well, I've been written up in, he mentioned Shaman's Drum and a few smaller publications. And so again, my 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 New Yorker, my reporter who never stopped hustling, smiled and said, "What if I could get you major media coverage in a mainstream newspaper or magazine? Would you take me on one of your expeditions?" And he smiled and he said, "I think that could be worked out. Let me talk to the board." I got a call from him. And again, we're talking about the BI era. I call it the before internet era. So we did a lot of communication voice to voice by telephone, and it was a lot of fun. And I got a very excited call from John saying, yeah, the board thinks this is a great idea. So see what you can line up. Now, I had been out of journalism for well, I left in 1988 and it was now 1993. So it had been a while. It had been a while since I did any print journalism, but I started sending out these query letters and proposals and making calls. And, it was a much new, younger generation of bureau chiefs. So nobody remembered me. I mean, I'd worked in several bureaus down there, but it had been, 20 years earlier. So my people were all retired or they had disappeared. And you couldn't look them up on Facebook because there was no Facebook. And I just kept getting turned down. And finally, I had been rejected by 36 newspapers, news agencies, and magazines. Nobody was interested in the story. And the story I was pitching was that Big Pharma was sending ethnobotanists down into the jungle to work with shamans and healers to be able to find out which plants they were using to heal conditions like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, leg wounds, so that they could harvest some of these plants and create synthetic compounds. And in fact, I think it was Eli Lilly had developed a diabetes drug that was based on one of these ethnobotanist collaborations. And the pharmaceutical companies were also contributing some of the proceeds back to these communities. So I thought this would be a hot story, but nobody thought it was of interest. So I figured I'm not going. Well, I packed up my windsurfer and I went out on a windsurfing trip, but I had also just gone through a divorce and a very bad breakup. And it just felt like my life was just falling apart. And as I was driving down the road, and this is outside New York City, and I'm crying my heart out, this man's head appeared to me in front of the windshield, just as clearly as you see me, or Michael, I'm seeing you. And this man looked at me with such compassion. And he had a red and yellow headband, and he had coal black eyes. He was very brown skinned. And he just looked at me and he seemed to be saying to me, I'm so sorry you're hurting. I can help you. I can help you. But I realized that I was staring at ahead and everybody else was driving normally. So I like looked at my hands. I said, okay, just keep your hands on the wheel and look at the car ahead of you and take a look to the left because I was in the right-hand lane. And if nobody else is looking at your windshield, you have a problem because you're hallucinating. You've got two brains and one is lost and the other's out looking for it. I mean, I was making all these jokes to myself to try to keep myself from freaking out. And there the head was just kind of floating in front of my windshield and nobody else saw it. No other car looked over at me. And he was there for about 15, 20 minutes and then he faded away. And then he came back just at the end of the road as it became a two-lane road. And I got to the windsurfing beach and I journaled. I just journaled for a couple of days and meditated and no idea what it was. And about a week later, I got a call from John and he said, look, our next expedition is leaving the first week in October. So this was now September. He said, I have to go to the board. Have you gotten any assignments? And I had to tell him that I had failed. I said, but this very strange thing happened to me. And so I told him the story of the head. And he said, oh, okay, let me meditate on this. So he meditated and he called me 2 days later. He said, you have to come on this expedition. You are meant to come on this expedition. Here's my travel agent. I'm giving you my discount rate, my friends and family rate. Just call them and book your tickets. And this is the date. And we'll all meet in Miami and we'll go to Ecuador together. And so we did. And the place that we were going had been a Christian missionary in this for this federation of indigenous people who used to be called by anthropologists the Hivaro. The Hivaro means savage people, but the people themselves wanted to be called the Shuar in their language because Shuar means people. They just wanted to be called people. Unfortunately, they had a tradition, and only the Shuar and a group of people in Borneo continued this tradition of cutting their enemies' heads off and shrinking them. But John assured us that the missionaries had Christianized them, and we had nothing to worry about until we got to the mission and we were told not to step out at night on the boardwalk because a few people had been found decapitated outside the mission just a few days before we arrived. So I thought, whoa. Yeah. And we were 25 days hike from the nearest road. I mean, we had come in by boat, by dugout canoe, and by, small plane and biplane. I mean, this was like quite an effort just to get to this area. And from here, we had to start hiking. And we were hiking through swamp. And at one point, I got stuck in quicksand and it was sucking me in. And these two guides had to come and pull me out by my armpits, literally, and get me on solid ground. And then they had to go in and they had to kind of rescue my boots because, we were all wearing gum boots. And then another time, I put my hand on a tree trunk and somebody grabbed my hand away quickly and started hacking at the tree trunk with machetes because it was crawling with these ants that are called 24, meaning 24, meaning if one of them bites you, you'll be dead in 24 hours. So that was like my second brush with death. And every night we would get to a different encampment and, we'd unroll our sleeping bags. I had my daughter's very silly sleeping bag that looked like a Crayola crayon. So here I am in the middle of the Amazon in my Crayola crayon sleeping bag, having no idea where I am. And every night another shaman would come and would administer ayahuasca to people. And they said, are you going to take the ayahuasca? Ayahuasca at the time still is. It was called the vine of death because it's toxic. And if it's not prepared properly, it will kill you. And if it is prepared properly, you will be reborn. So that's why they call it the vine of death. And people were, taking it and having ceremonies with different shamans. And they asked me, why I wasn't taking any, I wasn't participating. And I said, I believe that I'm on this trip because I'm meant to meet the head that appeared to me over the road. And if I do meet that person, that's the person I'm meant to do the ceremony with. And I don't want to do it unless it's with that person. And people kind of looked at me and I said, it was explained what had happened. It's a very strange experience that clearly imprinted me forever. And so we kept trekking every day, and it was one hike to the sacred waterfalls that required that we scale a rock cliff. Now, I'm originally from Brooklyn. I mean, I do some water activities, but scaling rock cliffs or rock climbing was nothing I had ever done. So we managed to get across the cliff to the sacred waterfalls. One was hot, one was cold. We did our ceremony, but coming back from the sacred waterfalls, it got a little hairy, and there was one part where I had one foot in the ledge of the rock, and the other foot was trying to find a position on the side of the rock, and my arm grabbed a vine for support, and the vine came off in my hand. So here I'm hanging off this rock ledge. It's about 150, 200-foot drop, it looked like, to the rocks below. There was no way that I could have survived it. A very slow few seconds, and I'm hanging literally by the midline of my body. I'll never, ever forget what that felt like, with my hand in the air and one foot in the ledge of the cliff and the other hand and the other foot just kind of hanging out. And then somebody came and pushed me up against the rock face. And it was weird, Michael, because when I grabbed the vine and it came off in my hand and I only had one foot, safely in the ledge, my voice in my head said, oh, I signed a release. I was aware that, if I got hurt or I died, I had signed a release. This was could potentially a life and death expedition. But somebody pushed me against the rock and saved my life. And we kind of edged our way down. I got off the rock cliff and I literally was shaking with adrenaline for like 48 hours. I just kept drinking water and rehydrating. And then we had the final hike, which was, I think, 2 days of walking through swamp, at which point, it was like 100 degrees. And I started hallucinating igloos and ice cubes and Eskimos. It was like it was so hot. I just remember I had like my mind was completely blown from the whole experience, and three very dangerous escapes from what could have been a very ugly, very unpleasant demise, as they say in the books. And finally, we got over the hill to the senior shaman of all of the Federation of Shuar. And there, sitting on a tree trunk, was the man with the red and yellow headband whose head had appeared to me over the road. And that was absolutely life-changing for me.
What
And
was his
how
name?
his name was Tuntwala. He's definitely passed on at this point. He didn't want his name to be published, so we called him Kittiar in anything we wrote about him. But he is on the other side now, and I have had visitations from him over the years. We did a special ceremony where he did something so that he and I would have continued to have a spiritual and mental, or you call it psychic or energetic connection. And what happened on the last day, the day after we did the ceremony, is he was doing a ceremony for a young woman, and he was like kind of clearing her with feathers or dried brush. I think they used, kind of slap you around your aura, clean off your energy field. And I saw a spark like lightning go from her to him. And the next thing I knew, the shaman is on the ground and he's unconscious. And nobody could wake him. Nobody could wake him. So now remember, the Shuar, they're supposedly no longer shrinking heads, but they were not too happy to see their head healer
Hmm.
unconscious on the ground. So they took up positions around the lodge, blocking the exits, and they were all carrying machetes, and they were all looking around at us. And I looked at John, the expedition, and the two expedition leaders, and I just remember their pupils were like completely dark, and the faces were white. And I think I said something like, "This isn't normal, is it?" And then somebody, I think the Shuar's, the shaman's son, said to somebody in Shuar, it was translated into Spanish for us, and he said, you can't leave unless you heal the shaman. And so different people put their hands on the shaman. And one of my friends who I'd made it, she was a craniosacral therapist, and she put her hands under his head. And she said, John, he's had a stroke and he needs medical attention.
Hmm.
And so John was able to negotiate with his son that we would take the shaman by plane up to the next town where there was an American oil company had a field hospital, and the men unblocked the exits, and we ran through the jungle. We ran to the grass strip, and we just kept waiting. I stayed at the end of to the end of the trip because I was bilingual, and I knew that I could help anybody if they needed anything, and the guides liked me because I was able to talk to them. And so we let everybody go out. Like first the shaman and two people went out, and every time the plane would come back, it would take four people, and we were a total of 20 people. And remember sitting in this thatched hut, thinking, this should be a movie. This should really be. This is like a female. We call ourselves the Indiana Jones. I mean, it was like, you just couldn't believe that this had really happened. And I've written about this.
There was
Uh,
a 1992 Medicine Man film with Sean Connery, who was the scientist that went down to study again, like you said earlier when you were talking. This would
right.
make a good follow-up film.
It's actually a great idea. Somebody had asked me, one of the women had asked me about writing a screenplay, but I don't know how to write a screenplay. But I did write about it for Maxim, and the link to that article is on my website in the journalism page. And my website is one of my websites, laurienadel.com. And just click on the journalism page, and there are some pictures as well. I've also written about it in my book, Dancing with the Wind, a true story of Zen and the art of windsurfing, about my spiritual experiences, which interestingly was very much tied up with my being an adrenaline addict, and there were some many connections which ultimately led me to find inner calm. And I guess, if you work in journalism for 20 years, you get into the zone of inner calm while there's chaos breaking out all around you. And so I guess I kind of chased to the edge of chaos to find that inner calm for 20 years, and ultimately ended up working with Zen master, who's Peter Matheson, the famous author. I became one of his students. Continue to work on myself with Buddhist practice. We call it practice because you're never going to get it perfect, and I use it in my own work with individuals. But a few years after this happened, this was 93 and 96, I was invited to join an expedition of women who were going into Ecuador, into a different part of the jungle with a guide, to meet women shamans. They wanted to start travel to Ecuador for women to meet women shamans. And but before they asked me, 6 weeks before they asked me, I had had a lucid dream where I was lying on my back in a hut, a thatched hut. And as I looked up at the roof, I could see that half the roof was hatched and the other half was not finished, and I could see the sky, I could see the moon, and I could see the stars. And a woman came in, and older woman, she started cleaning me with smoke and leaves, and I could smell the smoke, and I could feel the grit, along my spine, and I feel like I was lying on bamboo or something with the stones underneath. And it was a very vivid waking dream experience. So 6 weeks later, I got invited to go on this trip with these two women who I had met on the previous expedition. And again, we're traveling, we're meeting people. And we finally got to one of the last women we were going to meet, and we had to basically walk across a river in our gumboots and climb up a mud bank because shamans never live in, they never live in buildings with elevators and lobbies. You climb up the mud bank, got to the top of the mud bank, and there's the hut that I had seen in my dream. And half of the roof was thatched, and the other half was not complete. And the hut next to it had a roof, and out of that hut came a woman, and she was the woman who I dreamt about. And she said to me, "What took you so long? I thought you were coming 6 weeks ago."
Mm.
She said, "But I did have a dream this morning that you would be here." But, I still get chills when I think about that because the horizons of the mind and the spirit are so much greater than our Western educated minds can understand. And I'm so grateful that I had the physical endurance and strength to undertake these really rugged and risky and dangerous adventures or experiences to get to meet these incredible people whose model of reality goes well beyond our five physical senses. And that's been one of the greatest teachings to me for my work with people who are suffering and who have been diagnosed with something. If we look at the shamanic model, if you go to a shaman anywhere in the world, in Siberia, if you go to a shaman in Ireland or a Native American shaman, it's a universal form of healing. It's been practiced for 30,000 years. The earliest cave drawings show a star and a moon and a sun. There's an instinct that we have to connect to a higher spiritual force through nature. And that's the essence and heart of all shamanic healing. So I'm grateful that I've received these teachings through oral tradition from women healers and from male healers, from men, but mostly from women that have been passed on verbally, but from woman to woman, from generation to generation, and that I'm able to share this wisdom, if you will, or this model by saying to somebody who may come in saying, I'm severely depressed, and then find out that they went through a betrayal or a bankruptcy or they've lost their home or they've had some kind of catastrophic event. And to explain that the shamanic model is that when we lose a dream, a part of our soul breaks off, a part of our energy kind of goes AWOL into what we call non-physical or non-ordinary reality. And the shaman can help to reassure that part of the soul that it's safe to come back. So this is the kind of work that, has really it just filled my soul to be able to offer that uh, opportunity to people to say, look, I know that I can't give you back what you've lost, but maybe there's an opportunity to find another way of opening to your experience so that you can release some of the hurt and receive healing from the ancestor spirits or from the power animals or from the shamanic guides that are my guides, my healing guides. So it's really been fantastic for me to be led in this direction.
Tell us a little bit about the second healer, the female who walked out of the hut and was like, "What took you so long?" Tell us about her. Tell us about some of her practices. And if you don't mind, a third part of that, what are a couple of techniques you learned from her?
Well, Juana came, took us into the hut. There were three women who took us into the hut that I had dreamt about. And she cleaned each of us. And the technique that she used is first she blew cigar smoke all around her energy field. Then she took these dry leaves and she kind of cleaned us off with dry leaves. I don't remember if she used sage, she used some kind of incense. And then one of the things that shamans do. I used to do it, but I don't do it anymore for various reasons. But they would take a gulp of liquor, what they call trago, which was a very it was kind of smelled like kerosene. In fact, they fermented it in kerosene drums. So and you would go to the market and you would bring a bottle, like a big bottle, and they would just like siphon it off for you. So the shaman would take a swig of trago and then blow out a mist, which they called kamai. And the kamai is the breath of life and the breath of spirit. And they would blow it, especially around your head and especially around your crown chakra. And if somebody had, come for healing because they were going through, catastrophic loss, she would kamai the spirit of life or the lost part of the soul into the crown chakra and around the heart chakra as well. I now use Florida water, or agua de Florida, which is used a lot in the Caribbean and also in South America. And it's less messy and it doesn't freak people out because I don't have to spit it. But I used to do the whole thing with I'd have workshops and I would do the whole thing with the leaves and the sage and the cigar smoke and the kamaing of liquor. But now I kind of a little more restrained version of it. Eggs also, they use whole eggs. And what happens when you rub, eggshell is porous, and when you rub your body with a whole egg, as if it was a bar of soap, very gently, you can break the yolk into a glass of water and read the egg.
Hmm.
So I've learned how to do that. But you'll also notice that after you do this, the eggs in your hand will feel like rock.
Hmm.
I think one of my workshops, I had a little scale and we weighed our eggs before and after, and you could really feel that your egg had gained a few ounces, and then the eggs need to be disposed of and not brought into your house because you want to get that energy out of your house. So candles also, I think she used candles, but not lit, but we used candles because the wax also absorbs energy. And I was taught how to have somebody rub that candle over their body. And then I say a prayer to invite the spirit of the flame. And we light the candle, and the spirit of the flame will speak to me, and I will transmit that message to the person who's here. I have to do that, has to be done in person. I can't do that. That can't be done online.
I
Also,
love this.
yeah,
I'm gonna ask I'm gonna ask about one of your memories from either the first shaman you had mentioned, the male, or the female. But first, we're gonna take an interactive break for folks. We're gonna light a little sage. I'm here in Texas, you're in Florida. And we've done this way many times before. But folks at home, if you don't know about this, time and space isn't quite what you think it is. Ask the universe, ask angels to bring you the smell of sage. You've had a long week, perfect. Ask the sage to do its job. View it as plant medicine, energy, love, light,
I
or
like
mixture.
blue light. You've got something blue in your conch shell too.
Yes, crate and barrel tea light.
There, oh, there. So I've got tea lights too. Beautiful.
And
Oh,
here's the sage. Lori, are you catching a little bit of sage already?
yeah.
Can you ask for extra, especially from those two shaman? Maybe an incense, even though I know we're smelling sage. And at home, you can get flowers or an ocean. You live in the Pacific. Ask for Nantucket, Seychelles, something where you're not normally there. Ask for Antigua. Lori, can you ask for incense from the Latin American jungle? One of those incense smells that you know is coming from one of your acquaintances. Is it the male, the female, or both of them bringing you an extra special scent?
Well, the mail is they're sending me some Palo Santo. Yeah.
Aw. And very nice. And if you don't mind closing your eyes, get something extra special. You don't have to share it out loud. You might be visual. You might be getting an embrace. You might just get a hand squeeze on the shoulder or a really funny short expression from him that he liked to say. And if you just say got it, that'd be good enough. Unless you want to share it out loud, you're welcome to do that as well.
No, he just said the word ahora, meaning now. And
Oh,
isn't that what all the masters say? You know, we are here now.
I like that.
Is it ahora?
Okay, I'm
Well,
gonna put up three angels plus three photos of a jaguar for Jaguar Spirit. Powerful figure, and we'll see what happens. If you don't mind going for the whole kit and caboodle, something to relay to the audience, get something private, of course, get a blessing, get a hug. Here's Joy. If you want to catch some humor from her, it could be looking back on those days, but get something private, get something for public consumption, and make sure you get a lot of hugs and catch another scent. Flowers that can only be found in the Amazon. What are you getting? What are you experiencing?
I can smell the earth. Well, there's something in the Amazon they call Ayutam. It means the great force of life. So they say, "May Ayutam go with you." And to me, Ayutam is like it's you feel it in the air because things are constantly growing and creating, and it is a very moist, earthy scent to it.
Love it.
Ayutam. Yeah.
I've got another angel, a little bit older, like Audrey Hepburn's sister. Her name is Charlotte. She shows up often if you see her in person or mind's eye. You can see her Santa Fe, New Mexico garb. She's been around the block. What are you hearing from Charlotte? And what is her advice to everybody watching that you can relay?
And she says, keep your teachings in your heart. And I think that's true for all of us, whatever our teachings are, whatever religion or faith or lack of faith you follow, you keep your teachings in your heart.
Oh,
I think
it's beautiful. And no one's ever said that before. I love it. Out of 300 plus recordings. Okay, here's Min, one last angel. She's very oceany, light waves of energy and water. And some have said Mother Hawaii. She's definitely got a lot of aloha Hawaii in her. Um, Silhouette, and she's probably the guardian angel to about 80,000 people. I'm one of them. Go ahead. What are you getting from Min, and what is her reminder? Get something private, get something public for us.
I'm just getting the word tease, like it. oh, it's saying, where you've been is just the beginning. It's like it's I think it's like a teaser for a show or a movie. So, remember that, the opening is just the beginning.
Okay, Jaguar Spirit, we'll just say Jaguar. We had a beautiful show in January or February of 2025 with Dr. Jonathan Ellerby, PhD. He was Canyon Ranch spiritual director, has traveled to 40 countries, 30 over 30 years. But I thought I'd heard a lot of his stories before, but he mentioned the Jaguar. He went back to a village, three elders. They put him through 3 or 4 days of preparation. He describes it so beautifully, but he's sitting in a hut. It's closed off, no windows, door shut. And he drank the juice on that trip. He saw the ball of light outside the hut. Then it came in and it shared extra light. One of the medicine men the next day, older gentleman, asked, "Did you see the jaguar?" And he shared rainbow light with you. He didn't see it that way, but he got it the other way. And then on the show, he was able to allow Jaguar Spirit to come in the way the older man had seen it. He even connected to the older man. So we might do something on that front in a second. But here's Jaguar one
Oh,
way.
oh,
Connect, get a beautiful hug or feel ripples through you from head to toe. And if anybody wants extra help at home, put a hand on your heart, breathe extra, open mouth, and allow Jaguar to come in. What are you getting from Jaguar?
well, Jaguar is it's a very centering energy. It kind of is saying, reminding me of a tiger that I did Reiki with, and it's just, feel your feet. And yeah, just feel your feet, feel the ground, wiggle your toes.
And
Uh,
here's another version of Jaguar crossing a river or stream and just fluidity on this one.
yes. Uh,
And if you
well,
can also connect and then share.
Well, this is a very majestic animal, and you can see, that in Buddhism we talk about right concentration. It's like a one-pointed laser focus, and kind of sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I pretend that I'm putting blinders on like a horse, and I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other. But the jaguar doesn't need the blinders; you can just see in his eyes he's going for whatever it is, probably something to eat, but that's all that he's doing. He's 110% focused.
And on this next one, it'll be one in Jaguar up in a tree in repose. But if for you, if you could put both hands up towards Jaguar and take it in energetically, this is sort of like putting it all together here. Feel what you can feel at home. Don't judge. Just allow, allow, allow. No triota. And what are you getting from Jaguar on this one?
Well, it's very funny. He's saying, be careful what you wish for, and be careful about who you trust. Be cautious and tread cautiously. I said, tread cautiously. That's be aware. But he's feisty.
And I have one more for you. Um, it's Geronimo, older photo of Geronimo, just because he popped in at the end. Get something private, get a blessing, catch one of those Native American scents in the air, tobacco, sweetgrass, juniper, desert piñol, Douglas fir. But
Oh,
he'll have something that might make you chuckle, but get something then for public consumption for all of us.
who
And
is that? Is that Geronimo?
Geronimo, he's dry wit, action, doesn't talk
Mhm.
yes, no, formal. He's like, yeah, nah, duh. You already know the answer.
Yeah. He's like the Clint Eastwood of Native American leaders, so
Exactly.
I could see Clint Eastwood playing Geronimo. I'm looking at Geronimo and I'm thinking, wow, this is a man who sees more than the physical world. So that's what that's what I'm picking up from him. He sees well beyond what most of us are capable of seeing, and um, he's saying, but believe what we have shown you. That's what he told me. Believe what we have shown you. They've shown me so much. The animals. I have a distant, and well, it's actually an energy healing practice for animals and people. And I have another website, animalreikiplanet.com, that you can go look at and see the testimonials from people and the animals as to some of the experiences that we've had together. And I've learned not just formal Reiki, but I've learned that it's possible to connect energetically with somebody, any sentient being at a distance, even on the other side of the ocean, using traditional healing techniques, a particular type of Reiki, and remote viewing, which is the ability that the military uses remote viewing to perceive and pick up information, detailed information about an individual or a place that is in a different location with no prior knowledge. So I bring all of that together so that I can be present energetically with an animal in distress, and I can pick up what's going on and offer them some healing if they want it. They may want it, they may not want it. Sometimes they say, no, I don't want it, if it's really up to them. But Reiki is unconditional kindness, and it's like a wave band in the universe, like love or sunshine. It's just here all around us. It means universal life energy. And I've been very blessed to have great teachers and to be able to allow the animals to continue to teach me.
Hmm. And Laurie, let's do one final playful act on this front, at least for now. We're going to grab Joy the Angel. You'll hear something from her. Then we'll grab dolphin consciousness. I have a beautiful shot of a dolphin. Joy, in the end, may convert over to a pink dolphin in a little bit, but here's something from her. I'll put up the dolphin. We'll connect to dolphin consciousness. You'll have a wonderful time. And then again, you'll share what you can share, but get something private from her. And maybe a reminder for us all as well, since we've got her. What does she have for us all?
Dolphins, it's funny you should bring up dolphin. I have a YouTube channel with Dr. Laurie Nadel's guided meditations or meditation journeys, and I have one called Dolphin Mind. And the dolphin's brain waves vibrate at 8 hertz, which is a universal healing frequency. And it's also the frequency that we go into as we're getting ready to go to sleep. So it's what they call a theta wave. It's where many brilliant people, Leonardo da Vinci among them, and many inventors they received their ideas when they're in that theta state between sleeping and waking. And the dolphin's brainwave is in that state. And in my dolphin mind meditation, which is completely free, you can experience what it's like to play with the dolphin and allow your brainwaves. We have binaural beat video and audio, and I talk you down into a slower brainwave state so that you can connect with a dolphin and bring that dolphin into your life and have the dolphin with you whenever you want to experience dolphin mind. Yes,
Okay, here
that's
comes your dolphin. If you don't mind on this one, once you get a lock on our dolphin consciousness, think you don't have to be in the middle of the ocean. So you're going to allow for bubbles and ocean light, even have men come in to be some of the ocean for you. So you got Joy and Men, two angels, no limits. Let bubbles come in, dolphin consciousness, but let Joy be a pink dolphin. And if you don't mind, when you get locked in, close your eyes, put your hands out in any way you want that's unusual. Kumbaya, any which way. And just feel the bubbles around you, feel the vortices, feel the dolphin joy, the click, 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 the hellos. And if and when you do close your eyes, if you do, catch Joy as a pink dolphin, not necessarily leading the pack, but going with them all, so that you start laughing at this big pot of dolphin.
well, the dolphin is and the pink dolphin, they're telling me they're mama dolphins, they're maternal dolphins, and they see me as mama also. I am a mom, and I am kind of a mama to a number of people I've been blessed to help over the years. So that 8 hertz frequency is also the love of the mother of the sea, and that's another shaman who taught me the practices in Brazil of honoring the spiritual connection we have with the ocean. And so the dolphin is here to say thank you and to ask us to please respect her home and respect the sea at all times.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you.
Three takeaways in the big picture for spirituality that can help us all walk a smoother path, but that you wish you had known this back when you were 23.
Ah, that's a there's a trick question. Well, I think the first thing is people, often say to me, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I wish I had known at 23 that if you never grow up, you never have to answer that question. So that's been a big relief for me. I never have to grow up. The other thing is, um, I was told as a kid when we go to somebody's house, a dog would come over, sit with me and talk to me, and I would say, the dog doesn't like that food that you're giving him. And my parents were very embarrassed and they were ashamed of me, and they would tell me that Laurie, dogs don't talk to you. That's stupid. You don't want to be stupid. And now it's such a breakthrough for me at this age, near the end of my journey, that I go, they were wrong. Animals talk. So my second takeaway was, boy, if I only knew when I was 23 that animals talk, I could have had this whole lifetime of adventuring with animals. But I've had a whole lifetime of adventuring with people. So that's been pretty cool. And I guess the third thing that I wish I had known, and I'm still learning it, is how to be patient with myself, how to be patient with people around me, and not to expect things to happen whenever I want them to happen. To just take even adversity can be a blessing in disguise. And that's what a lot of my work is about, is helping people to find that light or that angel in the midst of sometimes very hard times. And we're living in very unstable times. And the beauty of shamans, shaman is described by an anthropologist as a person of unstable temperament, an unstable temperament, who, after a long period of illness, is called upon by the Spirit to take up the path of healing. Nobody wants to be a shaman. Nobody in their right mind wants to be a shaman. People think it's a very glamorous thing. I'm very happy that I've been given these teachings and these gifts, but I've went through many years of very hard illness, loss of my home, loss of a marriage, a lot of difficulty. And at a certain point, you would say, yeah, the Spirit came to me because everything in my physical world was falling apart, and it was like an egg cracking, and the spirits were able to come, and the ancestors were able to come and guide me into the path of a healer. But I don't wish it on anybody. Uh, I'll share what I can. If anybody would like to connect with me, and that's my gift, to be able to share the teachings.
I love this. Patience is peace, is what Charlotte said a few weeks ago, and I love that.
It's true. It's true.
And I'm going to put up one more photo. It's more like a historical photo from an Italian model actress from the 60s, but I use it symbolically for an angel named Isabel, Isabel, who's intercom. And I'm just looking for it. Here it is. And we know photos can't move, but photos can move. You can get a wink, a smile, the eyes, what they'll be more sparkly. She's got kind of a smile going, but no teeth, but you'll get more. So if you don't mind letting us know when that kicks in, let me just describe her for one more second. She's super cool. Anyone watching can just ask her to walk the rest of your path with you. Anytime you remember to remember, if you remember, you can just have your hand held, get a hug, catch a scent, see her a football field away if you need help. Um, she's like a pond that's glass, no rocks, no ripples, no wind, no branch hitting it. Or once every 90 days, if you live by the ocean, at 5 a.m. you could see glass or a mirror. Again, no waves, no wind, nothing. So Isabel, she's an angel, intercom. If anybody needs help at home, though, rub your hands for 3 seconds together, shake, throw finger paint everywhere, just do something, yell kumbaya. Relax and let your heart do the connecting. Here she is. You might feel her in a lot of solar wind of love and peace. Here's Isabel.
Oh my goodness.
Here's something beautiful from her. She's intercom. Get a beautiful compliment. Say, got it when you got that.
All right.
And let us know when you've got the photo. Has she moved in the photo? Has the photo moved a little?
Yeah, the eyes have moved, the pupils have moved a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, and if you can sit back, close your eyes, and put your hands out in any which way you wish, does not towards the screen, but more like you're at a concert or something, just out to the sides. Yep, breathe extra. Let her come in. Get the most brilliant hug, light on your eyelids, hands on your back. If you want Audrey Hepburn to come in, it could be any which way and loose. Let's do a Clint Eastwood film. Ask her to come in and get real spa treatment here. 9 different ways.
Very cool.
And what one way, 2 ways can you share what's going on and what can people try to ask for, even though there's no try iota?
Well, I interviewed Audrey Hepburn. It was so amazing, and that interview is also up on my website. But she spent her last years working for UNICEF because she herself had been in a displaced persons camp in the Netherlands after World War II, and so she's been kind of a guide for me. Um, she even gave me her home phone number, which I thought was, I never bothered her, but I thought it was very cool as a reporter.
And on
Um,
last night's show, not to interrupt, but last night's show, people can check out the regular Angels Positivity and Love Show episode 205. We put her photo up. You chatted with her. You got a hug from her. Here's
yeah,
that photo again. And
yeah,
one about her in just a second. This is another one of those photos that a wink, smile, eyebrow goes up, shoulder waggle. You get the idea. Connect
yeah,
with her, catch a perfume, catch her voice.
yeah. Yeah, she smiled a little bit. Yeah, she says, keep going.
Good.
Yeah, she's very cool.
So people should check out last night's show, and if you could, please leave a comment. Which part of Laurie's recounting of her experiences did you love most? What did you feel at home? And most importantly, was it sage, love, hugs, dolphin bubbles, jaguar, all the above? You can just do an emoji if you're shy. That works as well. Comment, subscribe, like, share. Laurie, what else have you got for us? If you were to give us a mantra, what mantra would you want to share with us? But here's the deal, you got to repeat it 3 times so people can pick up on your vibe and really take it in. Which mantra is it? I'll put up joy in case you're feeling like deer in headlights. Uh,
No, no, there's a mantra that I actually have a meditation for. So it's all is well. It's our animal Reiki mantra. We say all is well. When we see an animal in distress, we want to assure him or her, all is well. All is well. You're safe, you're loved, and all is well. So that's my mantra. All is well. All is well. All is well.
I love it. And what's one final tip for all of us as we sign off? How do we keep it simple? How do we keep it real and even fun? So, simply speaking, how do we keep it real fun?
Well, here's what somebody taught me as we were going to meet a tiger in a wildlife refuge. He had been taught this by his grandmother, I think in Kentucky, and it's very simple. Wiggle your toes. So when you get upset or when you're feeling overwhelmed, wiggle your toes. I have a technique that I developed where I'd say just take any stress or any agitation that you're experiencing, any uncertainty, and imagine that you're going to swipe it down, just like you're swiping your cell phone. Just swipe it all down to your feet, and just swipe everything that you don't want to feel down to the soles of your feet, and rub your feet on the ground really hard so that the only thing you can hear is the sound of your feet. The only thing you can feel is the contact and the movement of your feet against the floor. Wiggle your toes, put all your energy into wiggling your toes. And what it does is it clears the app up here. It's just going to clear your mind, your shoulders, your heart, your belly. Everything's down at the bottom of your feet because your feet cannot feel anxiety or agitation. Your feet can only do feet things. So give it to your feet, swipe it down, give it to your feet, rub your feet, and wiggle your toes. And if you pay attention to what it feels like just to wiggle your toes, it will release all the stress in the upper part of your body, and it will set it puts you also back into a more open, relaxed, childlike state so you can enjoy the rest of your day. So just keep wiggling your toes.
Laurie, you nailed it. Thank you very much for being on the APL Spotlight series. Laurie Nadel, great to see you again. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.